table of guys just sitting around having a round of beer. And I heard them talking. And they said, hey, you know Dr. Chi, he was talking Hokkien and Cantonese and Teochew. And then they started arguing which dialect was better. Right? And then they couldn't agree. So they said, okay, let's put it to a contest. They said, what contest? Okay, let's see which dialect is more accurate, which is more concise. Meaning, we'll ask each other questions and see how we can use less words. The less of the words, the fewer the words, I beg your pardon, the better your dialect is. So everybody said, okay. And after a few beers, everybody felt a little bit more relaxed. So, the Cantonese, guy speaking Cantonese says, I'll go first. Okay, you ask me any question. They say, okay, let's make this rule. First, you ask the question, who are you? Or what your dialect is. And then you must answer in 5 words. Very quick. Answer in your own number of words, right? Then we'll follow the question, what are you doing? Then the guy accepted. He says, okay, I accept the challenge. Cantonese is so good that I will say in 5 words. No more. Everybody said, are you sure? 5 words? Yes. Okay. So they started. This guy asked him, 5 words. 你係乜嘢人? Then the Cantonese guy said, 我係廣東人. 5 words. Very impressive. 你呢處做乜? 我呢處飲酒. 5 words. Wow, everybody was really impressed. Then this guy speaking K, I think it was King Chu or whatever. He says, I can do better. 4 words. What? Really? So they asked him. 你是咩人? 話聽朝人. 你做咩的? 話練住啫. 4 words. Then, not to be outdone, the guy speaking Hokkien says, I'll beat that. 3 words. Okay, let's start. 是咩人? 福建人. 做什麼? 話練酒. The Teochew guy comes along now. 3 words? Not good. I give you 2. Wow. 你將是話做咩? 練酒. That's not the end. That wasn't the end. And the guy was speaking English. Very quiet on the corner. And he's a bit tipsy by now. English beat everybody. See, really? 1 word. Okay, good. The guy says, who? He says, me. What? Drink. Actually, I didn't hear that at a coffee shop. I heard that long time ago when I was little. You know to who? Those of you who are old enough to remember. You remember Wang Sai Yafeng? Yes! Call him Abu Yasan. Yes! Chinese variety show. Can you remember? Yes! Don't raise your hands. You reveal your age. But those were the days that life seemed a little simpler. Dare I say, certainly less stressful. But times have changed, hasn't it? Now, many people have commented that we have become less Singaporean. I don't know what is it that makes us Singaporean. I can't define it. And experts are having a tough time doing it. But I found that out. I found that out one morning. Just yesterday morning when I was out in Ghim Moh, doing a walkabout with my team. And after they walked, just in between, we took a break and had our coffee, and we were sitting down. And some people ordered the mee chiang kueh, right? Because they say that's very good over there, and I can vouch for it. It's ooh la la. There you go, another language, French. So please, ulala is French. So we were sitting there and we were eating our min jiang kueh, and then, you know, I had a few pieces and Paul was sitting beside me. So I took these 2 pieces and said, Paul, have some more. He said, no, I can only have 2, very jelak already. And then it hit me. There was this Indian guy sitting with this Chinese guy, and he used the word jelak, which I think is Malay. It's quintessentially Singaporean, isn't it? Here was this professor, the top of his field. He goes all over the world to deliver lectures. He calls me up, I never know at any time where he is. South Africa at one time, US at another, and then Korea and another day. But here he was, and here we were sitting down in a hawker center, very, very Singaporean. But, you know, as I said also, growing up, when I was in secondary school, I was the die-hard Singapore football fan. Those of you who can remember the 70s, Kalang Law, we were in the thick of Malaysia Cup, right? Can you remember, all of you old enough to remember? Banana kick specialist, S. Rajagopal. Gilek King, Donna Cousin. Then we have our Kwa Kim Song. And then was the graceful Magno. But when I watched them, I shouted myself hoarse. But never once did it occur to me that they were Malay or Indian or Chinese. They were Singapore. They were Singapore. But looking back, it just dawned on me that, as I said, I was never conscious of whether they were Malay, Indian, or Chinese. Then I got into politics. The first thing I heard was that the Malay needed a certificate to prove that they were Malay. The Indians needed a certificate to prove they were Indians. Do you know how offensive that is? Paul needs to show that he is Indian. Not only that, after he shows that he is Indian, the next election, he has to collect another certificate to show that he is Indian some more. This system constantly tries to divide us. You're Indian, you're Malay, you're Eurasian, you're Chinese, you're other. I don't know what it is. But the other day I saw somebody show me the pink IC, right? And under race they put German. She speaks English. But as I said, many Singaporeans lament that we are becoming less Singaporean. And one of the things that is making us feel less Singaporean and feeling very stressed is the population policy that we continue to import hundreds of thousands of foreigners into this country. And whether you're taking the MRT or going downtown or just going to the beach to relax, the island is jam-packed with people. Already,
hey, the speaker, no problem.
with 5.3 million people, of which 40% are not Singaporeans. Singapore is already the third most densely populated country in the world. And yet, the PAP wants to push the population to 6.9 million. Now I want to be very clear about this, and I hope you listen very carefully. I understand. The SDP understands that Singapore needs new immigrants. After all, we are a nation of immigrants. But that's not the question. The question is, how do we manage the flow of immigrants into the way that the PAP has handled the matter has thus far been disappointing, and I am putting it very mildly. I'll demonstrate to you what I mean by drawing the analogy of a lifeboat. You have a ship that's sinking. There is a lifeboat that's in the water and can take 100 passengers, all of whom are waiting to get on it to escape. If we have everybody jumping into the lifeboat all at once, 1, 2, 3, everybody jump, what do you think will happen? The boat will sink under the impact. But we do it in an orderly manner. Children first, then women, then men. The boat will be able to safely take everyone. The same is with our immigration policy. Can you remember in 2014 that Mr. Lee Hsien Loong likened Singapore to being a sampan? If Singapore is like a sampan, imagine what will happen when everybody jumps into the sampan all at the same time. The PAP has allowed so many foreigners in such a short span of time that the impact is causing our societies to split. Worse, it hasn't planned properly our infrastructure to accommodate the enormous influx. I had the shock of my life when in 2008, then Minister Giorgio said the government should come up with a master plan to see how many foreigners we can accommodate. After 10 years of allowing 2 million people into the country, then you come and tell us that the government needs a plan? Don't you think that's a little bit too late? One would have thought that a plan would have been in place before, not after the floodgates were open. But because the PAP did not have a plan to accommodate so many people, we found our foreign workers congregating in public places. There is Little Philippines in Lucky Plaza, Little Myanmar in Peninsula Plaza, Little Vietnam in Joo Chiat, Little Thailand in Golden Mile Complex, and of course Little India in Serangoon Road. And because of the lack of a plan to help these foreigners assimilate into our society, the congregation of these huge numbers of foreigners led to trouble. The riot in Little India is a case in point. The riot caused more than $500,000 of property damage. Several emergency vehicles were wrecked and scores of police officers were injured. The lack of planning by the government was so bad that even the police were not trained to equip to handle the unrest. The commission of inquiry that was convened to investigate the incident found that there were insufficient number of officers available. The officers were not properly equipped. Radio airwaves jammed at a crucial moment. The commanding officer did not have any idea how many men he had at his disposal. Officers on the scene admitted that they were not trained to handle a full-scale riot, and the police did not have the numbers to fully contain the mob. Then there were the constant MRT breakdowns. In the latest malfunction, which affected thousands of commuters, Mr. Liu Tak-yu admitted that, and I quote, "To be honest, I'm not fully confident that we will have a sustained period of no major disruptions," unquote. Again, where was the planning to ensure that our infrastructure could cope with the hundreds of thousands of people that we let into this country? And on our roads, have you noticed that it takes much longer nowadays to get from one place to another? Our expressways are much more congested, and because of this, the ERP rates keep on increasing. And that's not to mention that with more people buying cars, COE prices also keep increasing. What about housing? The super rich are coming into Singapore to buy high-end property, pushing up prices. That affects the price of HDB flats, especially those in the resale market. Many of you have told us of cases where permanent residents buy HDB flats and then rent them out or sell them at a handsome profit. I think by now that it must be abundantly clear that the problem is not with the foreigners in Singapore. We must be careful, and I cannot emphasize this anymore. We do not conduct ourselves in an ugly, xenophobic manner, where we take it out on foreign workers who are here. They are here to earn a living for their families just like you and I. If we are going to get angry, then let us get angry at PAP's policy, not our guest workers. And because of the PAP's over-liberal immigration policy, stress levels of Singaporeans are at an all-time high, and our quality of life has deteriorated. Listen to these statistics, which I'm about to tell you, and you can check out all this online. Singaporeans are more likely to have suffered from depression, stress, and fatigue than most of our Asian counterparts. Psychiatrists in Singapore reveal that up to 90% of their patients are suffering from mental health issues caused by stress from work. Singaporeans work the most number of hours compared to other comparable economies, and with falling real incomes. Singaporean workers are the least happy in Asia. We rank 70th position out of 194 societies in the Quality of Life Index, and 90th position out of 151 countries in the Happy Planet Index. The elderly are pressured to continue working after retirement. The number of elderly Singaporean men working is at a record high. And yet the PAP wants to increase the population to 6.9 million.
I'll go down to the house, see whether he can breathe or not.
The government is already signing agreements that will force Singapore to let in even more foreign workers. Listen very carefully. The ASEAN Economic Community Agreement, or AEC, for example, would form a single market among ASEAN nations that will allow the unrestricted flow of labor across the region. According to a survey, 80% of workers in the region said they would like to work in Singapore under the AEC. Do you know how many hundreds of millions there are of people there are in ASEAN? Now, the agreement is expected to be in place by the end of this year. The influx of foreigners is not only affecting our quality of life, it is also increasing our cost of living. I mentioned on Thursday at Choa Chu Kang that Singapore is the most expensive city in the world. Another survey by this international group called Mercer found that Singapore has the 4th highest cost of living in the world. This is because the government is attracting millionaires and billionaires to Singapore, and this is pushing prices of everything through the roof. The government is also importing huge numbers of PMETs from our poorer neighbors, and these workers compete with you for your jobs, depressing your wages. Most expensive city in the world, lower wages. You don't need to be an Einstein to see why Singaporeans are suffering and what the cause of the problem is. The younger generation of Singaporeans also cannot afford HDB flats because they're getting too expensive. They have to compete with foreign students for places at our universities, and when they graduate, they have difficulty in finding a job. As a result, many of our younger Singaporeans choose to emigrate. A few years ago, Lee Kuan Yew pointed out that about 1,000 Singaporeans are leaving Singapore for other countries every year. These people make up the top 4 or 5% of skilled Singaporeans that our economy needs. This is no small number given the smart size of our country. But the more people we let in, the greater the competition for jobs, the greater the competition for jobs, the lower wages become, the more stressful life in Singapore gets, the more stressful life Singapore gets, the more Singaporeans choose to leave, and the more Singaporeans leave, the more foreigners the PAP brings in, and on goes the downward spiral. The only way that Singaporeans can prevent such a crazy, scary future scenario is to send a clear signal to the PAP in this election that you disapprove of such a policy. And the only way that you can send such a signal is to voice your unhappiness at this policy, is to vote for the SDP and send us into Parliament. Because without the SDP in Parliament, you will continue to have no voice, and this problem will only worsen. All these are facts. I am not attacking the PAP for the sake of it. And I'm not saying that all is doom and gloom in Singapore. I take pains to cite you these problems which, by the way, some PAP ministers and MPs themselves have admitted. So that there is no question in our minds that these are serious problems and these are serious questions to be asked. Let me repeat, the SDP is not against immigration. And we are not against immigrants or foreigners who work here. We need new citizens and foreign workers. I met a few business owners just this morning, and they told me that it was hard getting Singaporeans to apply for frontline jobs in the F&B and retail sectors. And they need foreign workers. I agree. We need foreign workers. What I disagree with is the indiscriminate allowing of foreign workers into our country. In other words, we must manage the process better. We must regulate the rate at which we take in foreigners, as well as the quality of the workers whom we let into this country. To this end, the SDP has drawn up a comprehensive set of alternative measures that we can implement. But I will describe only one because of time constraints. Please read the others on our website, yoursdp.org. We want the government to adopt a Singaporeans first policy, where foreign workers, especially the PMETs wishing to work in Singapore, will be assessed via a point system based on a number of factors. Factors such as age, qualifications, skill sets, competencies, experience, number of dependents, etc. to determine if they meet the economic and population needs of Singapore. If they meet the cutoff, then they go into a pool of potential employees, and Singaporean employers will be able to hire from this pool. And this is not hard to do. Canada does it, Australia does it, the UK does it. If the Canadian government can protect Canadians, the Australian government can protect Australians, the British government can protect Brits. Why can't our government protect us? The net effect of SDP Singaporeans First policy is that we will be able to considerably reduce the current number of foreign workers in Singapore while, and I want to make this absolutely clear for our SMEs, allowing our businesses access to foreign talent that they need. It's a win-win situation for Singaporeans and Singaporean businesses. As I stated earlier, we must focus on the policy and not on foreigners in this country. By the same token, let us focus on policies in this election, not on personal attacks. Now it may come as a shock to you if I say this, so you better hold on to your seats, or hold on to whatever is to you. Because what I'm about to say may register significantly on the Richter scale. I've said this before, and I will say it again. The PAP is not all bad. Some of the MPs genuinely work and care for the people. But by the same token, neither is the opposition the useless, destructive force that the PAP paints us out to be. We have ideas, good ideas, that will help to improve the lives of our fellow citizens. Ideas that will take Singapore forward and make it a better place. The PAP and the opposition must find common ground and work for the good of this country. To this end, the SDP makes this pledge to all our voters here tonight. We will cooperate and support the ruling party on issues that benefit the people and that are good for our country. But where we see PAP policies taking Singapore down the wrong path, we will be steadfast in our principles and push the PAP hard. But we will not stop there. We will provide credible, workable alternatives to take Singapore forward. You may or may not agree with everything that we propose. No one agrees on everything all of the time. That would be like Nazi Germany. But even if you don't agree with us, you know that the SDP will always do it with sincerity, with honesty, and with Singapore's best interest at heart. Many people have told me, don't talk about democracy and freedom. Singaporeans are not interested in that. They're only interested in bread and butter issues. I know that. I know that. Speaking popular words and doing popular deeds is what will get parties into parliament. But that's not what the SDP is about. It certainly isn't what I'm about. Like everyone else, I want to be popular. As human beings, it is innate. We have the need to be accepted by our peers, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is difficult being rejected. But there are times in one's life where we must choose between doing the popular thing or doing the right thing. I chose to do the right thing. I chose to tell you the importance of standing up and protecting your rights, even though it was not the popular thing at that time. I said it then, and I will say it again. Without democracy, without our political rights, we cannot make the PAP act in our interest. It is precisely because of the lack of our democratic rights that our situation has become so bad. During this period, when I was fighting for democracy, many people accused me of being out of touch with the people and even bringing the opposition a bad name. For many years, people, even some of my close friends, rejected what I was saying and doing. Those were very trying times. But whenever I found myself alone and racked with doubt and questions, I found strength in a poem. I want to share it with you tonight, if I may. The title of the poem is If by Rudyard Kipling. Some of you may have heard of it. It goes something like this.